The horse stood completely still, not a single step forward. No matter how hard they pulled the reins, no matter how loudly they shouted, it just wouldn't move. People around started whispering. Was it stubborn, scared, or something worse? The owner was getting frustrated, even angry, but the horse didn't react at all. It just stood there, frozen, as if it knew something no one else did. And then, someone decided to take a closer look. What they discovered in the next few moments changed everything, and suddenly, that stubborn horse didn't look stubborn at all. The road stretched out in a long, dusty line, quiet under the fading light of late afternoon. A warm breeze drifted lazily through the air, carrying the faint smell of dry earth and distant fields. Everything seemed still, until the tension broke at the center of the road, where a horse stood frozen, refusing to take even a single step forward. Its body was steady, almost unnaturally so. No shifting of weight, no restless movement, just a firm, silent refusal. The man holding its reins tugged again, a little harder this time. "Come on, move," he muttered under his breath, trying to keep his voice calm. The horse didn't respond. Not even a flinch. He pulled again, sharper now. The leather reins tightened, his patience thinning with each second. "Move," he snapped, louder this time. Still nothing. The horse remained rooted to the spot, as if the ground beneath it had claimed its legs. A few passers-by began to slow down, their curiosity pulling them closer. At first, it was just a glance, then a pause, and then a small crowd started to form. Someone chuckled. Another whispered something that sparked quiet laughter. "It's just a stubborn horse," one man said casually, folding his arms as he watched. The comment spread quickly, and soon others joined in. "Yeah, probably doesn't want to work," another added. A woman shook her head with a smirk. "Useless animal." The owner's face tightened. He could feel the eyes on him now, the judgment creeping in from every direction. He straightened his posture and pulled the reins again, more forcefully this time, trying to prove them wrong. "Let's go," he shouted, his voice edged with frustration. But the horse didn't resist, and it didn't obey either. It simply stood there, calm in a way that didn't match the chaos building around it. Its ears twitched slightly, turning back and forth as if listening for something distant. Its eyes weren't wild or fearful, they were focused, locked onto something ahead, something no one else seemed to notice. Its breathing was steady, controlled, almost deliberate. The contrast was strange. Around it, voices grew louder, impatience rising, movements sharper. But the horse remained composed, unmoved by the noise, untouched by the tension. The owner wiped sweat from his forehead, now visibly irritated. He pulled again, harder than before, his frustration spilling over. "Why won't you move?" he muttered, almost to himself now. A few people laughed openly. "Maybe it's broken," someone joked. The horse didn't react. Not to the laughter. Not to the pulling. Not to the raised voices. It just stood there, still, watching. And slowly, beneath the noise and mockery, a quiet, uneasy feeling began to creep in, something subtle, something hard to explain. Because this didn't look like stubbornness anymore. Something wasn't right. But no one understood it yet. The quiet curiosity that had first gathered around the scene quickly turned into something louder, heavier. More people drifted in from the road, drawn by the unusual sight. What had started as a few amused onlookers soon became a crowd, their voices overlapping, their opinions growing sharper with every passing second. "Pull harder!" someone shouted from the back. "No, no, give it a good smack." "That'll fix it," another voice added, louder, more confident. A few people laughed, the sound echoing awkwardly in the open air. Others stepped closer, squinting as if they could diagnose the situation just by looking. Advice came from every direction now, unsolicited, impatient, and often contradictory. "It's just being difficult. You've spoiled it too much. Animals need discipline, not kindness." The owner's grip tightened around the reins. He could feel the weight of their eyes pressing into him, their judgment settling in like dust on his skin. His jaw clenched as he pulled again, harder this time, his movements no longer measured but forced. "Move!" he shouted, the frustration in his voice no longer hidden. The horse's head shifted slightly with the pull, but its legs remained locked in place. No resistance, no panic, Just that same firm refusal. It wasn't fighting back. It wasn't trying to run. It simply would not move forward. Someone stepped closer, shaking their head. Useless, they muttered just loud enough for others to hear. Another man crossed his arms, watching with a smirk. "I've handled horses all my life," he said confidently. "That one's broken. Doesn't listen. You need to show it who's in charge." The words stung more than the laughter. The owner's confidence began to crack under the pressure. His movements grew more aggressive, less controlled. He pulled the reins sharply, then tried pushing against the horse's side, using his shoulder, his hands, anything to force a reaction. "Come on, just move," he insisted, his voice now carrying a mix of anger and desperation. But the horse didn't lash out. It didn't rear or kick. Its breathing remained slow and steady, chest rising and falling in a calm, almost deliberate rhythm. Its muscles were tense, yes, but not in fear. In awareness. Its ears flicked again, forward this time, then slightly to the side, as if tracking something beyond the noise. Its eyes stayed fixed ahead, unblinking, focused on something the crowd couldn't see, or didn't bother to look for. The contrast was becoming harder to ignore. The louder the people became, the calmer the horse seemed. And that calmness only made the situation more frustrating. "Hit it already!" someone called out impatiently. "Yeah, stop wasting time." The owner hesitated for a brief moment, his breathing heavy now. Sweat gathered at his temples, his hands trembling slightly as he held the reins. The voices around him blurred together, forming a constant pressure that pushed him closer to the edge. Was the horse really just stubborn? Or was there something he was missing? He looked at the animal again, really looked this time, but the noise around him made it hard to think, hard to see clearly. All he could feel was the growing embarrassment, the expectation that he needed to fix this, now. Slowly, reluctantly, his hand shifted. The thought crept in, harsh, uncomfortable, but fueled by the crowd's insistence. Maybe force was the only option left. The horse didn't move. It didn't react. It just stood there, steady as ever. And then, for a brief moment, everything seemed to pause. The noise softened. The movement slowed. As if something unseen was about to reveal itself, but no one had noticed it. At the edge of the crowd, where the noise faded just enough to think, someone stood quietly watching. He hadn't spoken, hadn't laughed, hadn't offered a single piece of advice. While others leaned in with opinions, he stayed back, eyes fixed on the horse with a kind of patience that didn't match the urgency around him. He was easy to miss at first. No dramatic entrance, no raised voice. Just a calm presence, observing. While the crowd argued and the owner struggled, he noticed things others didn't. The way the horse's ears kept shifting, not randomly, but with purpose. The way its body wasn't resisting, just refusing. The way its eyes stayed locked ahead, focused on something beyond the obvious. He took a small step forward. No one paid attention. Another step, slower this time, careful not to disturb the fragile balance of the moment. "Just pull harder," someone shouted again, drawing a few nods from the crowd. The man finally spoke, his voice quiet but clear enough to cut through the noise. "Has anyone checked why?" The words hung in the air for a second before someone scoffed. "Checked what?" Another replied dismissively. "It's a horse, not a puzzle." A few people chuckled, shaking their heads. To them, the situation was simple. Stubborn animal. Frustrated owner. Nothing more. But the man didn't react to their laughter. He kept his focus on the horse, his expression unchanged. He stepped closer now, moving with a calm, steady rhythm. No sudden movements, no tension in his posture. It was as if he was entering the horse's space with permission rather than force. The owner glanced at him briefly, unsure, but too exhausted to object. As the man approached, something shifted. It was subtle, so subtle that most of the crowd didn't notice at first. The horse moved its head slightly. Not away, but toward him. Its ears angled forward, attention sharpening. For the first time since it had stopped, there was a visible reaction. A small one, but real. The crowd's voices began to quiet, curiosity slowly replacing their earlier confidence. The tension didn't disappear, it changed. Less chaotic, more focused. The man stopped just a few feet away from the horse. He didn't reach out immediately. Instead, he watched, letting a few seconds pass in silence. Then, slowly, he crouched down. His eyes moved from the horse's face to its legs, then to the ground beneath it. Dust shifted slightly under his gaze as he leaned closer, studying something no one else had bothered to look at. A murmur rippled through the crowd. "What's he doing?" someone whispered. The owner took a hesitant step back, giving him space now, uncertainty replacing his earlier frustration. The man tilted his head slightly, narrowing his eyes as if something had just caught his attention. He leaned in a little closer. The horse didn't move, but its focus remained locked on him, alert, aware. The silence grew heavier. Even the ones who had been laughing before were quiet now, watching, waiting. And then the man spoke again, softer this time, almost to himself. "Wait." A brief pause. "Something's not right here." The man didn't rush. He stayed crouched, his eyes scanning the ground with careful attention, as if he were piecing together something invisible to everyone else. The dust shifted slightly under his fingers as he brushed it aside, slow and deliberate. For a moment, it looked like nothing was there, just dry earth, small stones, and the faint imprint of hooves pressed into the road. Then he leaned a little closer, his gaze fixed on the horse's front leg. From where the crowd stood, it still wasn't clear. People strained to see, some stepping forward, others holding their breath without even realizing it. The silence grew tighter, heavier, pulling everyone into the same moment. The man reached out carefully, not to force the horse, but to guide its attention. His hand hovered near the leg, giving the animal time to react. The horse didn't pull away. Instead, it shifted its weight slightly, just enough. And that's when it became visible. Half buried in the dirt, pressed dangerously close against the horse's hoof, was a jagged piece of metal. Rusted, sharp, almost hidden beneath a thin layer of dust. Positioned in such a way that one wrong step forward would have driven it deep into the hoof. A quiet gasp escaped from someone in the crowd. The realization spread quickly, like a ripple moving through still water. That was there the whole time," someone whispered. The man didn't answer. He simply pointed, making it clear now for everyone to see. The owner's face drained of color. His grip on the reins loosened as the truth settled in. All the pulling, the shouting, the frustration, it hadn't been stubbornness. The horse had been refusing to step into pain. Or worse. A wave of guilt hit him, sudden and heavy. He looked at the animal differently now, seeing not defiance, but awareness. Not disobedience, but instinct. The crowd, once loud and certain, fell completely silent. The man moved carefully, reaching toward the metal. Every motion was controlled, precise. He paused briefly, then slowly pulled the sharp piece free from the ground, lifting it just enough for everyone to see clearly. It glinted faintly in the light, dangerous, undeniable. A few people stepped back instinctively. The horse exhaled, a soft but noticeable release of tension. Its body shifted again, this time more freely, as if something invisible had just been lifted from it. Still, the man didn't rush. He checked the hoof gently, making sure there was no injury, no hidden damage. His touch remained calm, reassuring. The horse responded with the slightest movement, a small adjustment of its stance, a sign of relief that didn't need words. Murmurs began again, but they were different now. Quieter. Humbled. "I thought it was just being difficult." "We were wrong." The owner lowered his head slightly, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He couldn't meet the horse's eyes for a second, not after everything. Because the truth was undeniable now. The horse hadn't been the problem. It had been the only one that understood the danger. And everyone else, every voice, every judgment, every assumption, had missed it completely. They hadn't been watching. They hadn't been listening. They had just been wrong. For a brief moment after the metal was pulled free, everything stayed still, as if the world itself was waiting to see what would happen next. The dust hung quietly in the air, the crowd holding its breath without realizing it. All eyes were on the horse now, but not with judgment, with something closer to respect. The man stepped back slowly, giving the animal space. No commands. No pulling. No pressure. Just silence. The horse shifted its weight again, more freely this time. Its ears moved, no longer tense, no longer searching with urgency. Then, almost cautiously, it lifted one hoof, the same hoof that had refused to move before. A small movement, but it meant everything. The hoof came down safely, missing the spot where the sharp metal had been. No hesitation followed. The horse took another step, then another. Slow, careful, intentional, but moving. A quiet wave passed through the crowd. No cheers, no laughter, just a deep, shared realization settling in. The same people who had been shouting moments ago now stood completely silent, watching as the horse walked forward with calm confidence. The owner didn't move at first. He just stared, his expression caught somewhere between relief and regret. His grip on the reins had softened without him noticing, his earlier frustration replaced by something heavier. He stepped forward slowly, almost unsure of himself now. He started, but the words didn't come easily. What could he even say? Moments ago, he had been ready to force the animal to believe the worst about it. And now, it was clear the horse had understood something he hadn't. His hand lifted gently, this time not to pull, but to rest against the horse's neck. The touch was softer, careful, different. The horse didn't resist. It didn't pull away. It accepted. That simple contact said more than anything else could. Behind them, a few voices broke the silence, but they were quieter now, uncertain. Didn't think of that. Poor thing was trying to avoid it. I guess we judged too quickly. The earlier confidence had disappeared, replaced with reflection. Some people looked away, others shook their heads slightly, as if replaying their own words in their minds. The man who had stepped in finally spoke again, his tone calm, steady. "They don't refuse without a reason," he said. "You just have to be willing to see it. No lecture, no blame, just truth." The contrast was impossible to ignore. Where there had been noise, there was now stillness. Where there had been force, there was now understanding. The horse took another step forward, stronger this time, its posture relaxed but aware. There was a quiet strength in the way it moved, not just physical but something deeper. Awareness, instinct, trust in its own judgment. And slowly, that trust began to rebuild between the horse and its owner. Not through control, but through understanding. The moment became something more than just an incident on a dusty road. It felt symbolic, like a reminder of how easily things are misunderstood, how quickly judgment replaces curiosity. The owner walked beside the horse now, not pulling, not forcing. Just walking. Together. And as the crowd began to disperse, each person carried something with them, not just the memory of what had happened, but the weight of what it meant. Because the lesson wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It had already sunk in. Long after the moment had passed and the road returned to its quiet rhythm, something about that scene refused to fade. The dust settled, the voices disappeared, and the crowd slowly scattered in different directions, but the weight of what had happened lingered in the air, carried silently by everyone who had witnessed it. At first, it had seemed so simple. A horse refusing to move. An owner losing control. A crowd quick to judge. But the truth had been something else entirely. And that realization stayed. It settled into the mind in a way that was hard to ignore, almost uncomfortable. Because it wasn't just about the horse anymore. It was about how quickly assumptions had taken over, how easily people had filled the silence with opinions instead of questions. No one had asked why. Not at the beginning. They had seen stillness and called it stubbornness. They had seen silence and assumed disobedience. And in doing so, they had completely missed the truth standing right in front of them. The horse, in its quiet refusal, had been the only one responding correctly to the situation. It hadn't panicked. It hadn't reacted blindly. It had simply chosen not to step forward into something dangerous. Not weakness. Awareness. Not disobedience. Instinct. And somehow, that made its silence louder than all the noise that had surrounded it. The owner walked beside the horse now, his steps slower, more thoughtful than before. The tension that had once filled his movements was gone. In its place was something quieter, something grounded in understanding. He didn't pull the reins anymore. He didn't need to. His hand rested lightly near the horse's neck, not to control, but to stay connected. And the horse responded in kind, moving calmly beside him, no longer resisting, no longer needing to prove anything. Something had changed between them. Not dramatically. Not in a way that could be seen from far away. But enough. Enough to matter. Behind them, the last of the crowd disappeared down the road, their conversations softer now, less certain than before. Some carried a quiet sense of embarrassment. Others, a kind of reflection they hadn't expected to feel that day. Because what they had witnessed wasn't just a moment, it was a mirror. A reminder of how easily people react without understanding, how often they rush to fix something they haven't taken the time to truly see. And somewhere along the edge of the road, the man who had stepped in, the quiet observer, was already gone. He hadn't waited for thanks. He hadn't stayed for recognition. He had simply seen what needed to be seen, and then left. Almost as if the lesson itself was never meant to come from him, but from the moment. From the pause. From the realization. The road stretched on again, unchanged on the surface. But for those who had been there, it wouldn't feel the same. Because sometimes, what looks like resistance is protection. What feels like defiance is awareness. And what we rush to judge is often something we don't yet understand. That day, the horse didn't just refuse to move. It made everyone stop and think. Before you go, if this story made you pause and think, then it's worth remembering. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you never miss stories like this. Stories that don't just entertain, but stay with you. Because sometimes, the smallest moments carry the biggest lessons, and you don't want to miss the next one. Tap subscribe, press the bell, and join us for more powerful stories every week.